The world today sees them as the epicenter of terrorism.
Victims of terrorism do not sit together with perpetrators of terrorism to discuss terrorism. As a promoter, justifier, and I'm sorry to say spokesperson of a terrorism industry.
The recent journey of Pakistan's foreign minister to India for the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation conference is likely to have a lasting impact on his political career and personal experiences. This trip will remain deeply memorable for him for a significant period of time, as it resulted in disappointment and dashed hopes. Anticipating respect, similar to that given to heads of state, Bilawal was met with India's clear message of displeasure. India's diplomatic delegation, under the leadership of S Jaishankar, demonstrated exceptional expertise during the SCO meeting. However, aiming to make Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's visit to India unforgettable, India's Minister of External Affairs engaged in a contentious conversation with his Pakistani counterpart. The continuous barrage of derogatory remarks aimed at India and its leader fueled this heated exchange. India's strong stance can be traced back to the hateful and disgraceful remarks made by Bilawal during his previous encounter with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New York. In an astonishing display of audacity, Bilawal utilized his United Nations speech last December as a platform to brand Prime Minister Modi, a democratically elected leader of India, as the butcher of Gujarat.
The Honourable Foreign Minister or the Minister for External Affairs of India, that Osama bin Laden is dead, but the butcher of Gujarat lives, and he is the Prime Minister of India.
In an unexpected turn of events, Bilawal experienced a stark and discourteous reception as he arrived in Goa, with reports suggesting that he made a bold move to secure a private meeting with India's Foreign Minister, S Jaishankar. However, he was met with a resounding lack of interest, highlighting India's skepticism towards Pakistan's credibility. The Indian Foreign Minister, opting to avoid any interaction with an individual who had previously made derogatory remarks about India's esteemed Prime Minister. India took note of the fact that Pakistan has done nothing to show that it really wants to bring those responsible for the terrible acts in Mumbai to justice. Moreover, India observed with deep concern Pakistan's blatant disinterest in dismantling the terrorist infrastructure that thrives within its own borders. And equally troubling was Pakistan's callous disregard for addressing the ongoing persecution faced by religious minorities within its territory. As a result, India made it apparent during this visit that Pakistan's actions would not go unnoticed and would be met with a clear message of disrespect. India wanted to make it clear to Pakistan that its actions would have effects. S Jaishankar made pointed remarks about Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, referring to him as a promoter, justifier, and spokesperson for the terrorism industry. This statement reflected the Indian government's stance on Pakistan's role in fostering and supporting terrorism. And when it came to Pakistan's counter-terrorism efforts, S Jaishankar wasted no time in highlighting how rapidly their credibility was deteriorating, much like their dwindling foreign exchange reserves. And when asked about the possibility of talks between India and Pakistan to combat terrorism, Jaishankar scoffed at the idea. He emphasized that victims of terrorism do not engage in discussions with the perpetrators of terrorism to address this grave threat. The Indian Foreign Minister's statements shed light on Pakistan's involvement in promoting terrorism. In summary, the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting this year was remarkable. Goa witnessed a tense exchange between S Jaishankar and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Bilawal Bhutto had the daunting task of facing off against S Jaishankar, a diplomatic luminary renowned for his sharp intellect and astute acumen. With his unparalleled command over international relations and profound strategic insights, Jaishankar stands as an exceptional leader on the global stage. In contrast, Bilawal's foreign policy exhibits a notable level of naivete, as evident from his use of inflammatory language, and his insistence on imposing preconditions for talks with India, highlights a complete lack of understanding and knowledge in global affairs. It's evident that Bilawal's grasp of international relations falls miserably short when compared to the profound strategic insights and unparalleled command exhibited by Jaishankar. Previous Pakistani leaders were recognized for their astute approach and ability to navigate the intricacies of optics, including how to strategically manage international perceptions, especially when it came to addressing the desires of the US-led West. Despite their support for anti-India terror groups, they skillfully tailored their messages to convey a sense of peace and cooperation, catering to the expectations of the international community. However, in contrast to his predecessors, Bilawal's approach has been criticized for its perceived lack of strategic foresight and understanding of optics, particularly concerning his foreign policy towards India. For instance, he persistently insists on preconditions for talks, such as the restoration of Article 370 and Kashmir's statehood.
As far as Pakistan's position on bilateral relations with India or any meaningful engagement or dialogue with our Indian counterparts, our position remains unchanged, and that is that until India reviews the actions it took on August 5th, 2019, Pakistan is not in a position to engage bilaterally.
While this may appeal to his domestic audience, but it undermines Pakistan's global image. And his demand for preconditions in the dialogue with India was firmly met by Jaishankar, who emphatically stated that
Jammu and Kashmir was, is, will always be a part of India.
That Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India, has always been so, and will continue to remain as an integral part of India. Bilawal's best strategy against India would have been to call for unconditional peace negotiations. This approach would have garnered at least some sympathy, regardless of how dishonest it may have been. Bilawal should have realized that his grandfather, Zulfikar Bhutto, was able to outmaneuver India in Shimla Agreement of 1972. Zulfikar Bhutto, as the Prime Minister of Pakistan at that time, was able to negotiate with India and secure favorable terms for Pakistan. Bhutto was the brain behind Operation Gibraltar, an Operation Grand Slam, triggering the 1965 India-Pakistan War. He said horrible things about India at the UN, and in 1971, stormed out of a UN Security Council session, in tears. However, Bilawal's understanding of foreign policies falls short, as he has failed to employ the trust-building tactics utilized by his predecessors in their foreign policies. On the other hand, since 2014, India's foreign policy underwent a notable transformation. It became more assertive and confident in its approach. India began responding to friendships with warmth and reciprocating gestures of goodwill. And at the same time, when faced with hostility, India responded with equal strength and determination. Following this strategic shift, India opted for limited engagement with Bilawal Bhutto, refraining from extensive discussions. The Modi government is commended for its firm stance since the Pathankot attack in 2016. Unlike previous Indian governments, the Modi administration has avoided falling into the trap of accepting every peace proposal from Pakistan at face value. India is well aware that opposing India and harboring animosity towards Hindus is deeply ingrained in Pakistan's genetic makeup. An example of this can be seen in Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who at the young age of 15, wrote to Muhammad Ali Jinnah, expressing his belief that Hindus can never, and will never unite with Muslims, and labeled Hindus as the deadliest enemies of Quran and Prophet. Throughout his subsequent rise to influential positions in Pakistan, this deep-seated antipathy towards Hindus and India influenced Bhutto's decision-making. His attitude towards India was consistently characterized by hostility and extreme mistrust. Similarly, in contemporary times, authorities in Pakistan have continued to display a similar attitude towards India, lacking the decency to convey their viewpoints in an appropriate manner. Figures such as Sheikh Rashid and Fawad Chowdhury were infamous for their hatred of India and Hinduism. Rashid has garnered support among fanatical elements in Pakistan by making threats of nuclear war against India.
हिंदुस्तान वालों, हमारे पास ऐसे मसाले हैं कि ना बिरला जी के मंदिर की घंटी बजेगी, ना हिंदुस्तान में घास उगेगा।
In fact, he explicitly stated that these weapons would be utilized in such a manner as to ensure the safety of Muslims living in India. And he has even boasted about the ability to drop nuclear bombs weighing 250 grams wherever Pakistan desires. Rashid has also expressed a desire to teach India a lesson that would bring a halt to the ringing of temple bells. Another figure, Fawad Chowdhury, shares Rashid's anti-India sentiment. Both individuals have displayed envy towards India's progress. Chowdhury infamously mocked a religious ceremony performed during the handover of the Rafale fighter jet. In summary, the leaders of Pakistan, through their rhetoric and actions, have consistently demonstrated their antagonism towards India, undermining any potential for constructive dialogue or positive engagement. Therefore, if India has maintained its resistance to succumbing to meaningless peace talks with Pakistan during the SCO meeting, it can be considered a correct stance. This is because Indian authorities are well aware of the hypocrisy displayed by Pakistani leaders who, on one hand, offer peace talks, but behind the scenes, they continue to support and provide refuge to extremist elements, all in the guise of protecting Indian Muslims. Interestingly, Pakistani citizens themselves desire a Prime Minister like Narendra Modi in their own country, recognizing that Indian Muslims lead peaceful lives, while Pakistani Muslims endure suffering and constant fear, uncertain of their safety beyond their own homes. India consistently emphasizes that discussions and terrorism are incompatible, echoing the sentiment expressed by S Jaishankar that victims of terrorism cannot engage in dialogue with the perpetrators. Moreover, there are doubts about Pakistan's willingness to abandon terrorism, as it recognizes that it lacks the necessary economic and military strength to confront India directly. Instead, Pakistan resorts to terrorism as a low-cost strategy to weaken India.